Well, we might get started, I think, Louise. Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar where we will cover PCFA support group community grants for 2026. For those who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Mitch Witherington and I'm the Head of Operations at PCFA. My team and I, consisting of Mark in our Life Force program, our 3 community engagement managers, Lindley, Jason and Stephen, Louise, who's online with me today, our support group and administration coordinator, and Sarah, who answers our 1-800 number, are in daily contact with support groups. We were talking about this the other day, and we would chat to at least a dozen a day. And we're consistently surprised and inspired by the wonderful initiatives and creative approaches you use to raise awareness of prostate cancer in your communities and increase the profile of local support groups. So I just want to say thank you for doing that. We also often receive questions about insurance for those activities, which was actually the focus of our last webinar. So if you haven't had the chance to view that yet, I encourage you to take a look on our PCFA YouTube page. Some housekeeping. I just received an apology from our national chairman, Steve Callister. He couldn't be with us. He's traveling overseas at the moment. But the good news is this session is being recorded and will be available on PCFA's YouTube. And we will also send a link in the next edition of the support group newsletter for our network. As I said, today's webinar is on PCFA's support group community grants for 2026. And the program was launched back in 2023 and is aimed to distribute $50,000 worth of donor funds to worthy prostate cancer support group projects and initiatives to help advance the mission of PCFA. And that's been rather successful. As I said, this would be our 4th granting round. And over that time, we've refined the program to focus on awareness and community outreach initiatives. And that's where we want to share with you more about today. To help you guide you through today's webinar, I have invited Louise Thompson, our support group and administration coordinator, to present. But before we do, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Folks, we'll run through the webinar shortly, but if you have any questions throughout the presentation, we just want to encourage you to submit them via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We will aim to answer as many of those questions as possible during the session. And if there are any questions after today, you're welcome to send them through to Louise at supportnetwork@pcfa.org.au. Well, Louise, I'm going to hand this over to you to share a little bit of our community grants. So thank you.
Thank you, Mitch. Hello, everyone. As Mitch has already introduced myself, I'd like to just explain a couple of things that I do, because I do speak to many support groups on a regular basis. But I think more importantly, I'd love to know who's on our webinar with us. So as Mitch mentioned on the Q&A button, you can just use that facility and let us know your support group that you're from. I also know that you've probably come with either a burning question that you'd like to ask and make sure that we cover off through the session. And another thing I thought would be really interesting just through the session, it might be that you already have an idea for the grant funding. What is that? We'd love to hear what your initial ideas are. And I know, and just in case I forget, in case there is anyone that is with us today, you may already be a past recipient of a community grant, and we'd love to hear your tips so that you can share those with other support group members. So 2 key activities of mine through the year, and as we've clicked into the final quarter of 2025, are the community grants and the Max Gardner Awards. So there's going to be a flurry of information over the next few weeks about those 2 major projects for me, activities for you to be involved in. And so if you haven't remembered or met me, you sure as hell will by the end of December, but when we close up for the year. All right, so Let me share some slides with you that I've put together. They're mainly visual to help share our passion, our interest in the community grants. And we want to share that with you so that you will get involved. So let's share my... Okay, so it is almost 2026. We're only 3 months away, and really over the next 10 to 11 weeks is your time if you would like to apply for our community grant. I think there are four key areas of success if you're applying for a grant, and I'm going to talk through that, but they are high level. The whole application process and taking your time to work through that and go through all the information. That form's going to be online as well as a fillable form, PDF form. There'll be guideline information in addition to the online form that'll be available through an email launching on the 13th of October and on our great website. One of the many things that Sven, who's in the background of this webinar, who he manages. In that application, we'll be asking for lots of information. So we really want you to familiarise yourself with that. In how you tell your story about the activity. That's second key. What is it that you would like to do with the community grant that you would like to apply for? And we'll give you some pretty specific criteria around what we can and what we can't do as far as approval for funding through our grants. But think about the activity as something in 2026 that you would like to create a greater awareness in your local community and how you reach out to that community. What is it that you could be doing? We're just on the flip side now of September, and there was so many activities occurring around the country, and we've seen so many images of what people were doing to highlight the Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. So what is that activity? You're not curtailed to September. It could be any time during that year, and it's all around how do we create more understanding and knowledge about prostate cancer and what we're doing to achieve our mission. The third key is assessing. And I want you to think, as soon as you start talking about applying for a grant in your support group, be in the shoes of the assessor. And the assessor could well be peers, members of other support groups. As you write, as you complete, as you input into our form, think about how they're going to read it. What will they see, read, feel? What are the facts? How you attach to it? Because that is all the assessor can do, is rely on the input, what you've put in, all the evidence, all the details that we request. If they're there, it makes it much easier for the assessor to do their role in assessing your community grant application. And the fourth is accountability. What is it that you're responsible for? What are we accountable for at PCFA to make sure that you have every opportunity, a fair opportunity to access that grant? So thinking about sticking to timelines, using our logo, ensuring if there's any material that you share it with us so that we can ensure that we're using the most current branding of ours, that that you're applying for the reimbursement on time, or we pay for the tax invoice that you send us. So there's a lot to be accountable for when you're applying for the grant. So let me show you some images more so of what it's going to look like. So I will go through a few slides. We have built an online form, and we're still finalising that so that we can make that far easier to complete. We received a lot of feedback this year from the support groups that applied, and we've taken on that feedback so we can make that easier. So I've just given you a quick screenshot of that first page. So you don't even need to type in your support group's name. You'll find it on the list, and we continually update that with our support groups that we're onboarding. If you don't want to use the online form and you prefer to use a form that you can type into, even attach written documentation, that will also be accessible. We'll email that on our website. So the application, that is the work to be very mindful of allowing enough time and getting that to us by the 19th of December. So you have quite a bit of time. Now's the planning time and securing all the details that you can do to make the work of the assessor easy, and they can clearly understand what it is that you're wishing to complete, what's your goal and the impact that you would like to have. Now, the activity. So this year we had a group of applications for the grant from most states, not all, but most states. And I thought I'd just give you a bit of an idea of what we've received and what's the potential of what you could be considering as activities, and the assets that you would be able to access as part of that funding. So Box Hill, one of the support groups in Victoria, I'm not sure if we have Box Hill represented today, I hope so, and they ran a information evening only a few weeks ago, and there was a lot of activity right through this year to make that event occur, and they had a large audience in the room. They provided a meal, and there you have a federal minister in attendance. So that gives you an idea of one big event, one big activity that reaches a large group of people, and of course those people will tell other people about the information that was shared. Grafton in New South Wales, they're a big team, and they had a big community grant request, part of it being clothing over 80 people with their team polo shirts. So that's just a small image of a large team, and I suppose it'd be wonderful to see a photo of that large team wearing those polos. So really recognisable in their local community. They're a very active group. They are at activities most weekends at different shows, fairs, and they're wearing their uniform. Lifeforce, that is a growing area of our organisation, and in all of our communications, one key person you see on a regular basis is Mark. Mark is here making a Lifeforce presentation with a support group at a bowling event, and this is one of the key events that we would encourage you to consider for next year, to utilise one of the many volunteers that we have here as they're volunteers, they're members mainly of your support groups who are trained up and are professionally presenting the latest information about prostate cancer awareness. So that, as you can see in this image, you have a few of the members involved. You've got one of our assets, a banner, and there's a whole group of people having a fun time at the same time there for a presentation learning about prostate cancer awareness. Maybe it is like I do on a regular basis and go through my wardrobe and update it. It might be that you need to update your marketing assets. And I've just called it the Marketing Essentials Kit. There is no kit, but these are the key items that you would want to have in 2026 if you're out there promoting the great work that you do as a support group or the activities that you help and sponsor. So we normally tend to think of, and I suppose with the calls that I receive and the emails, banners would be one of the most popular. This week I've heard of 2 requests for well, there's so many types of tablecloths. There's one that Townsville have recently organised, and the good old business card. So at the moment we're working on a business card for our ACT support group. But what else would be part of a marketing kit? Well, as I mentioned, banners are probably the most frequently requested. You really don't need to put that much thought into your banners because we have some stock standard templates that we have that then can very quickly update with your support group's details. So there's 3 options. We try and find an image that might support your community, whether you're urban, regional, remote. We try and find the right image, and we'll give you a few options if you order those, and they could be part of your grant request. And there's another 3. You'll see, again, different images, and you'll see that that's for Limestone Coast in South Australia, and we gave them a few images. So that would be a pull-up banner, and there's so many of those available now through different printers or the big common one that we know of. Officeworks are probably familiar with PCFA, given the number that they must produce every year for our support groups. What else might be in your marketing kit? We are continually producing artwork for the support groups with flyers and brochures. This is a great one for support groups to promote yourselves, and we can customize it with your group's details. So that is, and I'm sure I'll be corrected, but I think that's a DL size and back and front, and they can be printed locally. And in case you weren't doing a community grant, that type of printing work can be claimed in your out-of-pocket expenses if you choose to use that service from us. But this is a great flyer to be using as part of your activity, whether that be that you're fundraising or you are creating an outreach type program in your community. Now, what do you think this might be? This is artwork that's been put together from the Request of Bargara, a very new support group, only started last year up in Queensland, and they hit me with a request for a particular item. And you could use the Q&A to put through your guess. What do you think this artwork is for? Mitch, you can tell me if anyone is onto that. Can they guess what do they think this is for? So we receive requests on a daily basis of very creative support groups wanting particular items. But this was part of a community grant request. All right, no guesses at this stage. This is, that was artwork for a square counter. I've never heard of it before. I feel very well educated now that there are a variety of ways to cover a table. So not just your stock standard tablecloth, you also have a square counter, and I've even copied across the pricing of that. So if you're putting together your community grant, we need a budget. So we need you to start doing some homework to find out, well, how much do you need? What items do you want? And we can supply that artwork for you. That's of no cost, but it's when you start working out what are the costs associated with purchasing items. The top item is a fitted tablecloth, so somewhat similar to the square counter, but you'll see it might be a bit challenging to see the actual item. But if you go into the likes of Officeworks on their website, you'll see the variety available. And all we need are those details and measurements, and we can get started on the designing. Now, you saw the Townsville tablecloth before in the image, and that would be the artwork that we would supply you. As I mentioned, there are lots of different banners, and Toowoomba reached out to us recently, and every time I see artwork requests, I always think that would be a great community grant request. It doesn't need to be the full amount, up to $5,000. It could be $500 for a couple of banners. So that these are teardrop, and again, I've popped in to give you an idea of the price those if you were putting that in as part of your community grant. Now, as I mentioned, I get requests all the time. This is one of my favourite requests, and we challenged Ben to come up with this idea. I'm sure there's quite a few of you who don't mind jumping in a caravan or a motorhome and touring around. Well, this was a support group member here in Victoria, and he was about to jump in the caravan for a few months, and he not only wanted to leave behind lots of brochures and resources at all the caravan parks that he visited, but he also wanted something for his caravan. So I'll just zoom that in for you. And this is the artwork that we gave to him, and he put together, he went to a local printer up in far north west Victoria, and this is what they produced, and it was attached to the caravan. That could well be part of your community grant request. And this is probably the funniest request I've had, and this isn't actually the item, but this is what we used in response to the request from a support group who asked for a really big banner. So this is the largest that we could find to send, saying, well, we can do this and we can create the artwork for you. This was actually for PCFA. This is at Bendigo Bank's head office that was erected. And the one that was being requested wasn't as large, but it was for a sale yard for in New South Wales. So thinking outside the square. So thinking about 2026, think about the activities in September where there was a lot of blue happening, and it might be that you want to think blue next year, and your activity for your community grant might be for that time, or really any of the calendar activities that we have that we generally dress up in blue to celebrate and the awareness of the work that you do. Or it could be that as Dennis is our hard worker up in Ipswich, I think it's probably time for him to get a new tablecloth. And I thought, great banner, but I'd suggest time to for us to supply some artwork for a new tablecloth, and that could well be a community grant for that support group. So as I mentioned, will you light up blue? We had a website available there for everyone to access, and let us know what you were lighting up blue. And there's in WA some of the buildings and iconic structures that were lit up. So do you want to light up blue next year? Will it be your town? Will it be an iconic structure? And this is all part of the way we can work together, is broadcasting that on our website as well as the work that you do. So one of the key I suppose tips that I have is, be accountable, because we'll be accountable with you and help you as much as we can to make the most of your grant, to triple the investment, if not more, so that you have a greater impact. This, the Rob Roy Revival in Victoria, this is really just to whet your appetite. This was a huge activity recently. It was a fundraiser as well. And I've had lots of inquiries in the last few weeks, all to do with car shows. There's a lot of interest around Australia, and a lot of people gather at those. So it could well be that there's something happening in 2026. You might want to join us in our 30th anniversary of PCFA, that you could host some type of stall or activity at an event, for example, what they did here in the Rob Roy Revival. Now, if I'm still talking about activities, what aren't we going to fund? And this is in our guidelines that we'll share with you, and just reinforce, uh, don't go down this track because it wouldn't be approved. So I'd love to be able to save you some time. So nothing's changed from what we've shared last year. Anything in that medical area, research, anything associated with alcohol, anything that has started, it's got to start once the approval is granted. Anything to do with websites and IT and digital assets, or any media advertising and production of media isn't or won't be funded. And just some final slides for us being accountable with you is what we continually update and provide. So during September, we updated some of our posters that are available for you. Potentially part of a community grant, you could purchase poster holders, and there are 5 posters in this particular collection. You may have come across them before, or I've forwarded out links to you to have these printed. And you'll notice the one on the right is about support groups, and I'll just turn the page to the other 2. So we have posters, and we have a variety of resources and other posters that you can have access to. We really encourage you to uh, use our brand, and we in particular use our logo. Check any printed materials with us so we can help you with that, provide you some ideas, leveraging off your creativity to make it more effective, given the experience and in particular feedback that we received from support groups, what worked and what didn't work. So think like an assessor. What would they want to know more about? Make sure then you put that into the form when you're applying, and think about what is included, what's not included in particular, and let's make the 2026 community grants effective for you. And if there's any questions after the webinar, because I'm definitely opening up for any questions and conversation now, please connect with us. We're only a phone call away, or send us an email. We're on top of that, and we're very responsive to come back to you as soon as we can.
There is actually a question here at the moment just come in, Louise. So this is from David, and he was just wondering why media is not supported. How else to get our awareness activities into the wider community? Um, yeah, great question, David. And Louise, would you like me to answer that one, or would you
Yeah,
want to
go
come
right
through?
ahead.
Sure. David, what we've discovered over the last few years of doing our community grants, some of our communities have actually in previous years put in applications for some media activity, whether that be on TV or radio. And then PCFA have also done traditional above the line media over the years. And what we've found is that we have seen very little uptake from those campaigns. And coming back to what I originally said in the introduction today, was that we're using donor funds to help achieve PCFA's mission, and it would be not responsible of us for us to be spending money on activities or projects or a campaign that we've not seen success from in previous years. So we are constantly monitoring that with a couple of other groups who have gone and funded that themselves, and yeah, we haven't yet seen that success that we would feel confident sharing with the broader donor community that hey, this is a good, wise stewardship of those funds. So I hope I've answered your question there, David. Um, there's another question here from another David. What is a good way to approach our local council for assistance and support? And he's from that's the Westgate group. Louise, you want to share perhaps some of our recent activities with council?
Yes, I just sent an email to a council just before the webinar started, and it was an inquiry that we received. They were looking for some presentations, which we would use our Life Force presenter to complete. It's in New South Wales. But what it suggests is for a council, there's such an appetite around the country in councils to work with their local support group. We've just launched Cardinia prostate cancer support group here in Victoria, and it was the actual council that kick-started that support group. So already we've had quite a few presentations, Life Force presentations completed there. But I would say now is a time that's probably the key area to reach out to councils, and there are roles, people are in roles, and that is their work to do, in particular for an ageing workforce. That's who they're targeting, or an ageing community. So I would be looking, and I'm just trying to think of a couple of titles of the roles in the councils, and I can get back to you, David, on that. But I'd say just calling or emailing a council and just saying this is what we'd like to do. I'd say they'd be wanting to work with you as much as we will too.
Absolutely, it's been a joy to watch that with Cardinia Council and that initiative coming from that council itself. Uh, just a question here from Brian. Would membership fees and stickers for a PC Dragon Boat Club be considered? Uh, well, that's an interesting one. We have not had a Dragon Boat Club initiative or project, and I'd be keen to probably see what that might look like. And Brian, my encouragement for you there is to reach out to Louise and have that conversation and explore what that idea could look like. We'd be open to hearing that before you go into the trouble of putting in that application. But that seems like it could be something that we would be happy to have a chat about. Louise, anything else about that?
Definitely. Well, I just know there is such a popular activity where there is a river floating through your town or major city. So, yeah, that's I'll be very welcome to read about that and explore that.
Hmm. Um, there is a question here from Alan, and Alan has been putting stickers out for a little while now, and he was asking whether or not that would be supported next year. Alan, I think we would be keen to have that conversation with you to see if there's any metrics behind what success you've seen across, whether it be across Victoria or yourself. Again, Louise talked about accountability, and at the end of if you are successful in receiving a grant, there's an acquittal process, and that's not just for us to tick the boxes or cross the I's and dot the I's and cross the T's. It's really about for us to be able to learn together. We're constantly listening to support groups to find out what's working, because we're wanting to not only grow the support group network but provide more support for men and their families as much as possible. So that's what we're here for, and that's part of our 11-point plan to provide more support in the peer support programs. So Alan, yeah, please reach out. Let's have that conversation. We'd love to know more about what you're seeing there to help perhaps put that application through. There's a question here from Span. Is this funding exclusively project driven, or can general funding be provided to cover running costs for a newly established group?
Well, thanks, Span. So Span's at Cardinia, who we were just talking about before. And I would think if I compare it to Bargara and their successful community grant this year, they were only, I think they kicked off was November last year, Mitch, and that's exactly what they did. Their grant was their marketing kit, from the square top table to banners, poster holders, a whole range of items, and that's set them up, and they're a growing support group up outside of Bundaberg.
I think last count they had 45 regular attendees, and that's grown really quickly.
Mm.
That was they're part of a retirement village up in Bargara, and probably a captive audience. I think it's a community of about 900 people, but great opportunity for marketing perhaps in your local communities to look at how you can reach out to over 50s communities.
Yeah, and I actually reached out to Danny, who's the support group leader there, to see if he could give us a spiel on how he went about the community grant. But and he probably will watch this, but he was having an appointment at the surgeon with, I think, to do with his knee or something to do with his legs. So hopefully he's getting better. But
Hmm.
yeah, great story from that support group, what
Hmm.
they did with their grant.
Jim just mentioned that their local council just funded some small equipment grant and replaced a printer for their group. So a great little source of funding and a grant opportunity as well there, perhaps in your local council, to tell them about the wonderful work you're doing there. So thanks, Jim, for that tip for other groups. Um, Previously, there was an annual budget for some of the promo items, i.e., banners. Is that no longer the case, Louise?
Ooh, you've got me there.
I,
So
I
just
could probably
read
jump on
that.
that.
Sure,
Yeah,
go.
the title is promotional stationery in our reimbursement grant
Oh,
works.
okay. Yeah,
So
right.
perhaps sharing what might be covered under that category for reimbursements, Louise.
Yes, so there's three specific areas in the reimbursement, which can be monthly or quarterly in our calendar year, and one is stationery. And generally, the stationery that we see come through is some printing of flyers, awareness building flyers, or stamps, printer cartridges. So yes, don't see it often. It's not used on a regular basis, that component, but that would be the main items that are used. But as I mentioned, on a regular basis where it's a last minute request, we would send a PDF of a flyer and suggest that they print locally, keep the money local as well, and we'll reimburse.
Jamie's asked a question about a fundraising event, and could this grant cover some of the event costs, hall hire and the like, and funds raised would then be donated to PCFA.
Okay, so Jim's had mentioned just before he's from Box Hill and that they got the another grant elsewhere. Their event, which I showed the image, that paid for the venue, for the meal and equipment and the room usage. Also, some flyers were part of their grant. So I think that addresses that. The funds for donated back to PCFA. Yes, there's quite a lot of activities that occur with a third party, let's say, venue, and they'll raise funds. There's just a few other um, ticker box activities that have to occur, authority to fundraise. And we have a fundraising team that we would then involve if that type of activity is occurring. So reach out to us if you're thinking of doing that, because we would involve them early on. So then you know what you're accountable for, what we're accountable for to make that happen.
I might just add to that, Louise, and say that I think the grant application would also need to be, I guess, proportionate to what you hope to raise. So for example, if you were hoping to perhaps run a small auction or raffle and maybe you might raise $1,000, it's not likely that an application for $5,000 for the event cost is likely to be approved. Ideally, we would like to see return on investment, so it would need to be proportionate to what you'd hope to raise from that community fundraising activity. We have seen some activities. Recently, there was a bowls event, and I think they raised a couple of $1,000. We've seen, and that was run by a support group recently. So we would need to sort of really look into what you hope to raise. We've got some, I guess, some experience in that could help you, set you some realistic targets and goals on the day. and then we can work together on that as well. So yeah.
Mm. And just to add to that, Mitch, because we're a fundraising team, on our website we can set up a page for the event so that it can you can leverage off that to get that word out further than your local area.
That's correct. And Tony, he said that our local paper, the Border Watch, ran a 3-page awareness of prostate cancer. Our local businesses ran advertisements supporting prostate cancer awareness. These businesses helped pay for the articles. It cost us nothing. Fantastic, Tony. And yeah, I think that there's a real advantage in some of these regional communities that can do that a little bit easier than the metropolitan areas, and some fantastic opportunities to raise awareness with the local paper. Obviously, that's a free. You managed to get that for free, which is even better. So yeah, fantastic. Don't know how that could dovetail into a community grant, but yes, there's just another great initiative there that encourage support groups to reach out to local community for that type of activity. Well, there's a flurry of questions there. Appreciated that. I think we've answered most of those, Louise. I'll just check
Mm.
in the chat.
Were there any tips from so Jim, I know you're there. You've the only thing Jim needs to do now is the acquittal for his 2025 community grant. But it's always great to get tips from those that have been before us.
Uh, he says the acquittal's in preparation, Louise. So work in progress. That's good.
Thanks, Jim.
But I think that sort of framework when you're working on your application is working through is how can we measure success here, so that if it is successful, we can share that success story with other support groups who are wanting to raise their profile and encourage more men and their families to come to support groups. So it is a really key component to this community grant program. Well, Louise, we're at probably at the end of our time here, and there's no more questions. I think we can probably leave it there. As we said at the start and during the session, if there's a question that's burning away for you, perhaps tonight when you have a bit of quiet time, feel free to shoot that an email to Louise. That's at supportnetwork@pcfa.org.au. Louise is here Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, so she's welcome to answer any of those questions. It's been a pleasure having you all here today. Today's discussion, as I said, has been recorded and will be posted to the PCFA YouTube page in the coming week. It's also going to be sent out via the support group e-newsletter. I encourage you to read that. If your group does not receive a copy of the support group e-newsletter, again, reach out to Louise. She'll make sure your details are on the mailing list. And she's available on the 1-800 number as well.
Now, there was a question there from Raymond Lane.
Can we have posters that we can customize with a space for a local support group? Yeah, we can definitely look at something like that.
Yep, sure.
Let's have that chat, Ray, and see what you're looking for and what space you might look for, and where you might want to use that. Open to those ideas.
And the next webinar, Mitch?
Yeah, so the next webinar is going to be highlighting the Max Gardner Awards and how you may like to nominate a worthy recipient who's been active in your community to raise awareness of prostate cancer, maybe out there helping men and their families. So we'll be emailing you shortly with dates and times of that webinar. That webinar will also be recorded and available on our newsletters and formats as well. So stay tuned and keep an eye on your inboxes for that. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us, and we want to wish you a great afternoon. So thank you so much, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.